Preparation for the United Nations Association's Test of English. 3 essays. 1. Rohingya Crisis. 2. Coup d'etat. 3. Aung San Suu Kyi.
Question 1. In 2016 and 2017, the Myanmar government was severely criticized about its human rights violations in the Rohingya crisis. Explain the major points of contention regarding its internal governance.
1. National League for Democracy. The 2015 elections, i.e., a few years prior to the Rohingya crisis, the National League for Democracy, NLD, came to power in Myanmar, with the party's founder, Ms. Aung San Suu Kyi, acting as the de facto leader of its government. Optimists then envisioned that a new political regime, presumably of the irreversible post-military period, would bring forth democratic reforms for all.
2. Ethnic cleansing. In 2016 and 2017, the deadly persecutions of ethnic minorities in Myanmar invited heated debates on the global scale. Since then, numerous human rights violations have forced over a large number of victims to flee across the national border, mostly to Bangladesh, and to form the world's largest refugee camp. Many international observers accused the Myanmar government of ethnic cleansing. Documents prepared for the UN Human Rights Council, for instance, reported evidence of wide-scale human rights violations, including extrajudicial executions, gang rapes, and arson of villages, businesses and schools.
3. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The military and the government refuted the accusations by the international community, including those by the UN investigators, against the Myanmar military and security forces, of committing horrific crimes. In August 2018, the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights declared that Myanmar military generals should be tried for genocide. They have replied, however, that their operations were strictly targeting terrorists.
Question 2. Explain the most recent coup d'etat that took place on the 1st of February 2021, and its consequences.
1. National Election 2020. On February 1, 2021, Parliament was slated to hold its very first session, with the policymakers newly elected, at the national election on November 8, 2020. The election results reflected the overwhelming popularity of Ms. Aung San Suu Kyi, the de facto civilian leader of the country, as well as her political party, the National League for Democracy, NLD. The military, however, rejected the election results as fraudulent.
2. Coup. In the pre-dawn hours, before the inaugural parliamentary session, the military undertook the swift action of coup, overthrowing the fragile government, and detaining many civilian leaders, including Suu Kyi and duly elected politicians. The military-owned TV station immediately announced the coup, with the news presenter claiming that the 2008 constitution justified the military to declare a national emergency for a year. Subsequently, the military seized control of the country's infrastructure, suspending most TV broadcasts, and canceling domestic and international flights. Telephone and internet access was also temporarily suspended in major cities.
3. Suppression of the pro-democracy movement. During the first few weeks following the coup, military leaders restrained their response to the wave of relatively mild protests. When 2 unarmed protesters were killed by security forces on the 20th of February, however, civil disobedience and demonstration have grown more forceful. On the 22nd of February, millions of people, representing a broad cross-section of society, took a general strike. Accordingly, the military response has escalated into a brutal suppression of the pro-democracy movement by erecting barricades, deploying soldiers in riot gear, and stationing snipers on rooftops along protest routes.
Question 3. Explain the rise and fall of Ms. Aung San Suu Kyi.
1. Nobel Peace Prize in 1991. Ms. Aung San Suu Kyi received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1991. A few years earlier, she returned to Myanmar from Britain to look after her aging mother, and then rose rapidly as an iconic leader, struggling against the country's military regime. Even though she was mostly detained at home, during the next 20 years, her reputation, domestic and international, rose further. Media also dramatized her as an estranged wife and mother, tragically separately from her husband and sons.
2. Democratization. When the Myanmar government began its democratization, in the early 2010s, her global popularity reached the pinnacle. When Suu Kyi openly began her political activities as an elected parliamentarian in 2012, the outlook of the country's governance practices was getting brighter. After the 2015 election, she came to power as state councillor, with a portfolio of multiple ministerial posts.
3. Rohingya. In 2016 and 2017, however, Suu Kyi's reputation was tarnished by the country's campaign against the Rohingya, a Muslim ethnic minority group. In 2019, she represented her government as its foreign minister at a trial of the International Court of Justice, and vociferously refuted the accusation of ethnic cleansing. This triggered a rift between Suu Kyi and the international community. Her previously praised image as a pacifist was now transformed into that of a genocidal executioner.
4. Blank screen. The vicissitude of Suu Kyi's international reputation seems to have reflected observers' vacillating image about her. Confined at home for years, with only fleeting connections to the outside, she became a blank screen on which observers could project their wishful thinking. Perhaps, hidden from view, were the prejudice and proclivities that she shares with many of her fellow ethnic Buddhist Burns. Arguably, aging may as well accentuate the inner character that tends towards intolerance of criticisms.
Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.